So for step 19, attaching the steering servo. Well, we've got a couple of pieces here, B1 and B7, that need to be attached to the servo itself. And again, you can see how the alignment is going to work, making sure that this is as level as possible. Then we've got this C7 piece, which you can see we're going to have to grease up. And then this is going to be placed into the chassis. We also have to put in the receiver, and we've got this, it looks like a body pin post that's got to go in as well, and this antenna pipe piece. And you can see we need to put some double or sponge tape on top of that, which I've already cut out and is ready to go. So there is all the hardware that we need for this step. And of course there are the bits and pieces that we need, and of course the grease. And that's there for the receiver, which you'll see as we go along. So I'll set this up and let's install the servo. So let's start by getting a couple of these things in, because they're just bits and pieces that are going to be out of the way anyway. So you can see that this antenna part is going to fit into that hole right there, and we're going to screw that in with this BC1 from the bottom. So let's grab our screwdriver and we're going to stick that right there and screw it in. Pretty straightforward, that bit. So we've got that installed, and then we have this piece right here. So the body mount, we've got an BC13 washer, and that is going to be installed right here on this post right there, and it's showing you need the box wrench to do that. So we'll screw that in, and I'm just going to make sure that that actually is going in level. Just going to push that back out a bit there. Let's make sure that that's yes. Okay, looks like that's good. So we can screw that in all the way. Just doing a double check, but yes, that looks correct. Now, it is showing that you want the body mount post facing sideways. So let's make sure that that is as sideways as possible. Yes, that looks right. I'll do one more turn just to get it as level as possible. So you can see that the hole is facing in that direction. So now that those two pieces are on the chassis, let's move to getting the servo set up properly. So you can see here that there are two brackets. So you can see that the hole is in the bottom and these indentation pieces are facing out. You can't get them confused because you can see that with this one, the indentation is facing that way. So you can see we're going to stick this here. We're going to grab one of these BC1s and a washer. That's going to go into the bottom hole and then through, and then we have our lock nut on the other side. So if I just hold that there for a second, we're going to use the screwdriver to turn that in. Now, I'm just going to do this temporarily for now while I get the other one on. So again, I'm going to grab our screw, our washer. That's going to go through the bottom on that side. And of course, we're going into the hole, indentation facing out. And we've got our lock nut, which will go on the other side. And then we'll use our screwdriver to screw this in. Now I do love the way that this is put together, in that I really find the other way where you screw it directly into a plastic piece, and often it's really hard to do. With the lock nuts, this step makes it a lot easier. Now, once we've got this to this stage, you'll notice that it shows you in the instructions right here that this needs to be level with the center. So in other words, we're not having the bracket down below, we're not having it up at the top. This line that's in the piece right there needs to match up with the center line of the markings on the servo. So if I put that, let's say there, and I'll screw that in just to make sure. So you can see that the line there is matching the line in the center. That looks about right. I might actually drop it just a touch more. Let's say there. And I'll just screw this further in. Make sure that's nice and tight. Don't over tighten it, but just make sure it's nice and tight. And we're going to do the same thing with the other side. So I'm going to loosen this off. Make sure that that line is matching the center of the servo. Looks about right. I'll tighten it just a bit. Just let's see how that looks. That looks about right. It's centered. So we'll screw that down even more. And now that's nice and firm. Now I'm going to do another little check here just to make sure. Tighten that up. Tighten that up. And then we can do that last check, and it looks like that is correct. Nice and level. So that part is done. Now you will notice that we're going to start installing it here. Now if you remember, there was a piece of sponge tape that goes on to C7. I've already put that piece there. So let's grab our chassis. You can see the BC3s. These are our two BC3s that are going to hold the C7 piece down. But you'll also notice they want you to grease this all up. So let's do that. So I'm going to put some grease here. I'm going to put some grease there. And it looks like that's sort of around the edges too. I'll put a little bit on there, or just spread it around just a bit. Just like that. So that's that. I'll put it aside. You'll notice that they're showing you greasing up the servo part too. So this piece here, because this is going to move, this needs to be greased up as well. So let's do that. And I'm not going to go crazy, but I'm going to put enough on there. We know that it's going to spin within that. And we also know that they're showing you greasing up the gear. So let's do that as well. That's good enough. And it looks like they want you to grease the edging on the outside, which is fine, just like that. I'm not going crazy with it. So now this is going to sit down here just like that. And because of the placement of these brackets, this is actually sitting nice and level. So it's not flopping around. This is now level with this bracket. So the servo's not sitting low, is what I'm getting at, or sitting too high. It's almost like, and you can see in the way that image was, you could have leveled this out by looking at the top of the servo, which would also have worked too, but they had the marks on it. This now is going to sit down here like that. This is going to sit over top. So you can see that's going to sit over top. And then we're going to screw it down with these two BC3s right here. So one will go there. Make sure that that is sitting as flat as possible. Yes. There we go. And let's get the other screw in place as well. So I'll hold this up so you can see what I'm doing now. We're going to just screw this in all the way. Now remember, these are tapping screws, so when you get to the end, it'll just stop because we're going from hard plastic to hard plastic, so you'll get a really good feel for this. And that's as tight as I can get them. So there we go, there it is. And this is obviously loose, and it is in an interesting design because typically the screws on the other side would be coming out through the bottom and this would be nice and tight. Well, it's obviously going to move because they're not saying do anything with the bottom of that. The only part that's screwed in is really the servo saver piece and the rack and pinion steering setup, because you can see on the other side there's our gear, which is going to move that rack for steering. So it really is an interesting design. So this will be held in, but not until a later step. Very, very cool. It's so different to any Tamiya I've ever built. So the next thing we have to do is we need to install our receiver. Now this is where it also gets interesting. If you notice, they're showing you putting double-sided tape and fitting it down here in this hole. Well, there's no way that that's fitting into the hole. There's no way. It's not designed for that. Now, I have seen people put it here, but the way this is and my receiver, it's too big, so that's not going to fit there. So I've come up with an idea. I had some of the body from the TTO 1E Bagheera Fat Fox, and I've taken a piece of the polycarbonate and I'm actually going to stick that right there, and I'm going to stick it down with some double-sided tape. You can see that there's room for a piece to fit there, and we're going to put that there, and the receiver is going to sit on top of that. And I've checked this out to make sure that it would work, because, you know, obviously we have another piece here that's going to stick here in another step. It's totally out of the way, so there's no worry of this getting caught on anything or affecting any other part that's got to attach to the chassis. So that's how I'm going to solve that problem. I'm not really sure why they show it fitting down below. I mean, you can see the way that arrow is, but that's impossible. So I will attach this to here, and I will attach this with, of course, one of my pieces of this. And just for fun, I'll actually do this right now. I would stick that there. I know that this piece here is going to sit just like that, nice and level. We know that the antenna is facing the back, so I'm going to stick that right there, just like that. So I'm going to attach this to the base of that, and then we'll quickly come back. So just so you can see what I've done, I cut up some of the double-sided tape and put it down onto all the four corners. The main corner that's going to hold this together is obviously the one at the front here, because this one has, you know, it's more solid on the plastic. But we'll peel all these ones off. And lastly, this one here, which is held down on, you can see in a second what I've done with this. That one has not come off properly because I needed the paper to come off, not the double-sided tape, but that's okay. That'll work. So now, if I grab the plastic here, I've got it going off to the corner as far as I can, and it'll sit there. This side is going to be held on a lot better than this, but that's not bad. I'm good with that, because that's not going anywhere. And now I can take the receiver and just put it down right like that. We've built a nice shelf for it. This is going to fit well with where the antenna pipe is, and of course all of our connections will be able to be made right there, and it's not in the way of anything. So this solves the problem of the platform as to where that's going to sit. So that means we're good to go. So that means step 19 is complete. So we can now move on to step 20, and we're going to attach the RC equipment.